Operation Exchange is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised. So, welcome to Mushroom Monday. For the next several Mondays, we will cover some of our favorite mushrooms, medicinal, functional mushrooms. And, the Western world has really been kind of afraid of mushrooms. Like, you bring them up. Courtney has a story about getting some mushrooms from a yard, one of the safest mushrooms in the world to eat. Now, of course, they need to be cooked, as do all mushrooms. But, the lady was like, if you die,
don't come back to me over it.
But they've been used in the East for medicine for thousands of years, and even the Mayans and the Aztecs, right?
So it's like modern Western world train of thought.
Have really kind of adopted this mycophobia.
Yeah.
You want to get into some of that?
Okay, so mycophobia is just the fear of mushrooms. I'm sure there have been stories passed down that have caused people to naturally have this fear, kind of like heights or anything else.
Yeah, you sit there and watch your ancestors or your relatives, pass away because they've eaten some sort of mushroom that may taste good and might not exactly be deadly, but it slowly kills your liver,
or gives you some really bad shits.
Yeah.
It's not pleasant either.
Right.
So, there are mushrooms out there that you do not want to eat. Then there are mushrooms out there that some people see benefits in that other people would say you do not want to eat. And then there's ones that are, for most people, are perfectly healthy with no to very few side effects, if any. And most of those that would get side effects from them would be from a change too quickly in their diet, start ingesting something they're not used to having in their diet at a high amount. And that can be a lot of foods. You don't usually eat greens, and you start eating a whole lot of greens, you're going to have some side effects.
If you're vegetarian or vegan or something like that for 2 years, and you go, start chowing down on the porterhouses 6 days a week, then more than likely you're going to have some issues, man.
Right. So, there's instances where, yes, you can have some side effects from them. But the ones we're going to be covering are ones that have been used medicinally by many different cultures for many, many years. And so this goes as far back as at least 3,300 BC. That they found a guy frozen in some ice.
Okay, permafrost or something like that? Okay.
That had a bag with him that had a few different mushrooms. They dated him to be at least 3,300 BC. So at least that far back, there's proven documentation that people were using mushrooms.
And the Mayan civilization goes back like 10,000 years, right?
Yes.
And we know they use mushrooms.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, they're not new, y'all.
No, and they held a huge significance in some of these cultures.
Absolutely.
For giving them clarity, for guiding, for nutrition. There's several different means. They used them for a lot of different rituals. And that's where you kind of get into the area of, in modern Western world, and a lot of probably the modern Eastern world now, the psilocybe mushrooms are kind of like, those are the bad things. But there's studies that are showing that they have benefits.
Oh, they're being used as treatment for PTSD and addiction,
depression,
and
anxiety.
And let us go ahead and say now that we're not doctors, and we're not, in any kind of way giving you any kind of medical advice. Always check with your doctor before you use any kind of mushrooms whatsoever. But it's just an interesting topic to talk about, because it's one of those things that's so polarizing. Either you got two groups of people. You got people who are like, okay, yeah, man, I've learned about this benefit from this mushroom, and I like to check it out. And then you've got people that are like, I ain't touching a mushroom with a 10-foot pole unless it's on
portability.
Yeah, unless it's on a salad bar. If it's on a salad bar, I'll put it in my salad or whatever. But funny thing is, I don't know if those things are seared or it almost seems like they're kind of dehydrated or something to some extent.
Yeah.
But they're definitely not fully cooked, And I'm of the thought that all mushrooms should be, cooked to some degree. And I'm not sure about those portobellos on the salad bars. Like I'm not entirely sure. They're usually the baby portobellos or whatever.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really matter.
Or white mushroom, button mushrooms.
Yeah, button root. Yeah. So like anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so like this is kind of a little bit of a passion of mine. There's like a little joke in my classroom. Whenever they find something mushrooms around the holidays, like I usually get a new mushroom thing. Like I just got to where I really like the mushrooms. So if I can help to dispel some of that mycophobia, that's what this series is going to be about. Like giving some information about what's out there, what can be found, what supplements are readily available, and specific qualities of different mushrooms as we go along.
So what got you into mushrooms, Courtney?
It was a conversation I had back a few years ago that led me to watching Paul Stamets.
Okay.
And a documentary of his that I watched was very interesting. And so I just started really digging in from that point.
You hear that name pop up a lot when it comes to mushrooms because, he is like the forerunner, I guess you would say, right now as the spokesman for the fungi.
And mushroom research and...
Yeah, and there's a lot of them out there now. There's a lot of good mycologists out there, and there's a YouTube channel that I like to watch called Fresh Cap, and I've got a lot of the information that we'll be talking about today off of his YouTube channel, and it's a great YouTube channel. I'm not being sponsored to advertise that YouTube channel or anything, but if you're interested in learning even more about mushrooms, Fresh Cap is a great resource.
Okay, so there's some mushrooms that are functional for medicinal purposes, and then there's mushrooms that have other purposes, and we'll go over the ones that we know we plan to cover over the next few Mondays. Today's just kind of a history, a rundown, kind of a welcome to the series type episode. But we will be covering turkey tail, lion's mane, cordyceps, the reishi, chaga, shiitake, oyster, and
honey mushrooms.
And honey mushrooms.
Man, those, she's trying to read my writing, so sorry about that. But honey mushrooms are the ones that we were talking about earlier, where they pop up in clusters in people's yards all the time, and they're delicious, man, and they're really good for you. They've got a lot of good stuff. I didn't write any of the benefits for honey mushrooms down,
and we can cover those
separately.
Yeah, we can give a basic overview today of what pretty much all these medicinal mushrooms have certain qualities.
And not all these mushrooms are considered to be culinary, so not all of them are considered to be delicious in foods or anything. But for instance, the turkey tail, the most studied mushroom that we will probably be talking about today, and maybe one of the longest used mushrooms that's on the list for today. And it's kind of leathery and rubbery, and
you don't want to chew it up.
But you can rip it up and you can make a tea out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's because all the good stuff inside the turkey tail is water soluble, and we'll get into some of that good stuff later. But you want to talk about what do you want to talk about now?
So all these medicinal mushrooms will have polysaccharides.
Yep.
That are hot water soluble, and then they'll have the
triterpenes.
Yeah, triterpenes.
Terpenes. Yeah, triterpenes. The polysaccharides, those are complex carbohydrates. They boost the immune system when they're introduced to the human body. And again, I'm lifting this right off of Fresh Cap's YouTube page. But you can that stuff is hot water soluble. So when you make a tea out of it, you can brew it for a couple of hours at 170-ish Fahrenheit, and it'll pull all that good stuff out, and it'll be in the tea.
Mm-hmm.
But if you eat it, most of the time it'll probably turkey tail is not something you want to eat anyway, but this may go along with all the rest of the mushrooms as well. If you just eat it, lion's mane is easily eaten, but it's you're going to miss out on a lot of the benefits because it'll pass through your digestive tract before it has an opportunity to break down all that good stuff.
That's a good point. And not that you wouldn't get anything,
No, you get something of them.
but you're not going to get the majority of those important chemicals.
Yeah, no, that's yeah.
Which is kind of different than some of our stuff like that we eat, like vegetables. A lot of vegetables, they say, once you cook them, you've cooked most of the nutrients out. With these, like, you want to get them to a certain point to pull it out.
Yeah, it's like it's buried up in like these cellular walls deep into the tissues, and like a lot of times that stuff might not get broke down all the way before it passes through your body. So some of the stuff's alcohol. Like I think the triterpenes are alcohol soluble. Yeah, they are, and that's an anti-inflammatory and antiviral. They got lots of good benefits, and they're even believed to have the hypnotic effect that some mushrooms have. Is like that would be a triterpene.
Okay. And then the sterols, that's the precursor for vitamin D.
Some of it is. It's, what is it? Ergo.
He can't read his writing either.
I can't read my writing either. It's ergosterol is a precursor to vitamin D. So when you leave a mushroom out in the sun,
that's high in the
that's right. Yeah, if it is high in ergosterol, then it can soak up a lot of vitamin D from the sun. And a lot of vitamin D supplements are made out of mushrooms because of this.
And that was something that I learned today. Like I did not realize that. I've done a lot of studying of different mushrooms, but as far as the specific chemicals and what they can do, that was something new today.
Yeah.
And most people in America are low on vitamin D from studies that I've seen. So like it may be a solution that's simple to add to your day to have some more vitamin D.
Yeah, and there's a lot of studies done, that actually lead both ways. Some of them's like, like say lion's mane. Let's jump into some lion's mane for a second.
Okay.
All right, so lion's mane, I take this supplement. I use Host Defense. Again, not sponsored, but I use Host Defense. That is the brand that Paul Stamets owns, and I use lion's mane, and I'm gonna do a 5-2 regimen. I've been taking it every day for a few months, but I'm gonna back off because I was listening to somebody that sounded like he was smarter than I am, and he was like, you got to give it time to be able to do its thing and give it a rest period and then start it back. So, but with lion's mane, there's been people who have studied it that absolutely believe. We heard Paul Stamets say that that he's administered some studies when people are taking lion's mane. They do better on cognitive exams. Mm-hmm. But then you have other mycologists that call bullshit on that, but say that lion's mane is still very beneficial to take because it's, the people who do take it are less likely to get cancer. Like I said, we're not
experts either way.
We're not experts. We're just talking.
But the ones that believe that it helps with the cognitive function is because it's supposed to help make those synapses connections.
That's
in
right.
The brain.
Damaged nerve endings, like maybe some nerves that have been damaged prior have a chance to be rejuvenated. Kind of like it almost sounds like a stem cell type of thing. You hear people talk about the stem cell treatments and stuff that they'll have on like ligaments or whatever. And that, to me, in my mind, that's how I see it operating, is like instead of having stem cells injected into your knee to fix a torn ligament, you're allowing this mushroom to, do its thing inside your brain to reconnect synapses.
Right.
Yeah. But lion's mane, it's delicious, y'all. Like if you can get it from if you get it from a grocery store, we have a grocery store, not actually
about
local.
2 hours away.
Yeah, about 2 hours away, and they have some fresh lion's mane, and it's delicious. You can use it culinary as a substitute for shellfish, such as crab. So you can make a crab ragoon or something like that. Say if you are vegetarian or vegan and
or allergic to shellfish.
That's right. Or just want to try something new, man. Lion's mane isn't cheap. I think like it's.
But what is anymore?
Yeah, exactly. And it's at worst, it's good for you.
Right.
You know.
paying a high price for something that has potential good benefits, or paying high price for a big bag of junk food chips. Like, those are expensive now too.
Man, I need my trans fat though. That stuff is so delicious.
So just another aspect of mushrooms, and some of these I learned about today too. But besides just eating them, there are other uses for mushrooms. You can make natural dyes with some of them.
Okay.
Anybody that actually needs to make dyes, it's certain ones like Dyer's polypore, oyster, and lobster mushrooms make various different colors of dyes when they're boiled.
What is a lobster mushroom?
I'm not sure. I was going to look that up.
Yeah, we're gonna have to look that up. I'm not familiar with that one at all.
I wasn't either. And it could be another common name
It sounds like a red mushroom, doesn't it?
for something that we do know the name of.
Okay.
That happens a lot. There's a lot of mushrooms that have common names, and they may have several common names depending on the region you're in.
That's right. Chicken of the woods is one of them, right? Like, I mean, it's called chicken of the woods by some people, and then you
got some that call it some type of polypore. There's different ones, but you've also got like chicken of the woods and hen of the woods, and those are two very different types.
Then you got spring chickens,
right?
That's what we call them around here.
The morels.
They're morels, yeah.
And when we go over them, I'll try to look up as many different common names as I can find for each one. That way, that like if you hear someone in your local area that's saying this type of mushroom, you'll know that's the one we're talking about.
Yeah, when we say oyster mushroom, that actually covers a lot of different types of mushrooms, right?
Well, there's several different types of oyster mushrooms. Like you've got the pink oyster, you've got the white oyster, the fall oyster, the spring oyster.
Right.
So there's depending on the type we're talking about, there may be several different names or different names for different times that they're growing in the season.
Okay. So we covered lion's mane. Well, did you want to jump into something else on your paper or from your notes?
Were we gonna go over each one today?
I mean, we can give a brief rundown on each one, I guess. But like cordyceps as an energy
booster.
Yeah, it's known as the energy mushroom. Like I would love to be able to kick my caffeine habit and pick up some cordyceps. I know that's going to be a painful week.
Right.
Because while I bitch and moan about the prices of lion's mane mushrooms for culinary use, I don't have a problem paying $3.99 for a Monster or a Bang or a Celsius
or something in a can.
Those guys need to sponsor us. But like kicking caffeine. A lot of people use cordyceps for a coffee substitute because it does provide a massive amount of energy. Supposedly, this is one I haven't tried, but I'm excited to check it out myself. But yeah, what do we got?
Then you've got the Rashi.
I have taken that one before, but that's supposed to be for like sleep support and relaxation and used for meditation and stuff like that.
It's got a calming effect.
We'll have an entire episode on that one as well.
The chaga.
Okay, the chaga.
It doesn't technically have a fruiting body.
Okay, it's just mycelium, like heavily concentrated mycelium in birch wood.
So it'll look like a fungus coming off the side, like a knot off the side of the birch trees.
Sounds like agar, doesn't it? Like, we were, what you get oud out of. There's a tree that grows a fungus in the Arabian countries, right? I mean,
I believe so. Over there in Middle East somewhere.
And like it's really rare, but you get that ingredient off of there. And
it's like a thick sap that comes out of that fungus.
Yeah. And you can make a perfuming ingredient out of it called oud.
And then we have, but the chaga only grows on birchwood, by the way.
Okay.
That's a very specific characteristic of it. You can find fungus that makes knots on other trees, and it's not going to be chaga.
Okay.
So we've covered the lion's mane, the Rashi. There's other ones like shiitake that are easily, in a lot of areas, easily found if you want to forage for your own. I enjoy going out and foraging. So like
Yeah.
ones that you're going to see commonly are going to be oyster, shiitake, turkey tail. Lion's mane is very, 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 very hard to find
It is.
around here.
We found it's not supposed to grow in our region at all, but we did find a little bit of lion's mane.
And it's either that or like it didn't quite get big enough. There's coral tooth, which is in the same family as
Okay, it could have been
lion's
coral
mane,
tooth. Okay.
and it looks just a little different. Like it branches out like coral instead of looking like long hairs. But when they first start out, they both look very similar. But regardless, either one of those are hard to find in this area.
Right. Are you talking about the one that we found in Manchester, Tennessee? Or are you
No,
talking
I'm
about...
I'm talking about the one in Hornbeak.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I know that lion's mane has a few different cousins, and all of them are supposed to be very beneficial.
Yeah, they've got very similar medicinal purposes.
And a lot of the, one thing to keep in mind if you're thinking about taking mushroom supplements, I mean, of course, I guess legally I should be responsible enough to tell you to consult your doctor or whatever. But if you make that decision on your own or with your doctor, know that the mushrooms that are being cultivated for these supplements are not wild. They're farm grown kind of. So that they're grown in a controlled environment, a temperature and moisture, a sterile and moisture controlled environment for the most part. Like we have heard like horror stories about people ordering lion's mane from China.
Well, they ordered it from what they thought was a U.S. company. It was a U.S. company, but it was sourced out of China.
The lion's mane was sourced out of China, and listen, that's not to say that's a bad thing, but like mushrooms are kind of like sponges and they absorb their atmosphere. So like wherever those mushrooms were grown, that he said whenever he smelt of it, it smelled just like pollution, like it smelled like the dirtiest air that he's ever smelt in his life, and he just discarded the entire bag.
Yeah, it didn't smell like a natural earthy type of dirt smell. It smelled like chemical pollution.
And lion's mane does have a pretty distinct earthly scent. Once you get used to smelling it, it's not really mistakable. For me, it definitely smells different than the turkey tail.
Yeah. And turkey tail has very little smell. It's so dry that you don't get much of a smell. Oyster mushrooms are going to smell very different than the lion's mane.
What's your favorite mushroom that you've eaten so far?
That one would have to be. I really liked the lion's mane battered.
Yeah.
And fried that we did.
Yeah, that was
those
good.
were really good. I also really like with just butter sauteed with some salt and pepper, the honey mushrooms.
Honey mushrooms are awesome.
But oyster mushrooms are really good too.
Yeah. Mushrooms are just good. You get good mushrooms, and like if you haven't ever experienced any mushrooms besides like fried mushrooms at a restaurant, and listen, we had some of those tonight. Like every once in a while, like we enjoy having some fried mushrooms, which are usually portobello, right? But if that's the only mushrooms you've ever experienced, like do yourself a favor and at least try some of these culinary in a professional environment or whatever. If you're picking them up, if you look up some recipes online. If you try lion's mane, and I highly recommend that you do, honestly. And like I don't own any stock in any lion's mane, so it doesn't matter to me. But I think culinary speaking, like just talking about the kitchen, lion's mane is something that I feel like everybody at least needs to try at least once. Prior
to me getting into this, had you tried any other mushrooms besides the portobellos?
No, I don't think so. I mean, like I may have. I've got family that hunt spring chickens, and there's a possibility
that you had some when you were younger.
That I had some when I was younger, and but like it's if I did, I don't remember them type thing. Like it's not something I've ever really paid attention to until I remember a few years ago you and I speaking about Paul Stamets. Like I listened to a lot of Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
and so when I heard that episode on Paul Stamets, I don't know if you heard, like if you were talking to somebody else about it.
I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember who I was talking to, but
I'm not entirely
I know
sure
we had
either.
conversations after that.
But I remember we were like, we got to sit down and watch this episode. And that may have been like one of the first episodes of Joe Rogan that I'd watched myself. Because like he had just come to Spotify. And I'm not the type of person, being a truck driver, I don't like to burn my screen while I'm driving. So I usually find something to listen to and I'll leave it on that until
And
I
you're
get
not
stopped.
flopping back and forth between apps. And
That's right. I just leave it on Spotify. And I'm not paid by Spotify either. So like
they can sponsor us too.
They could sponsor us too. But I leave it on Spotify and I just like let things play. So like finding a show that's 3 or 4 hours and it's going to be interesting and you have the opportunity to learn something. I like those types of shows. But yeah, that Paul Stamets episode a few years ago, maybe 4 years ago, or three or 4 years ago, may have been the first Joe Rogan episode that I ever listened to. And I was like, this is crazy. This guy knows everything about mushrooms. And from there, one way or the other, Courtney got involved in it
and then I just
very closely.
Dove in.
Yeah, and she dove in and she started foraging. And she's learned a lot about stuff that's not mushrooms.
Yeah.
Like just, regular plants.
Like elderberry and watercress and
Whole
mullein. There's all kind of stuff that I've since getting into the mushroom hunting. I began learning from other people that have gone with me, or just looking into other stuff what's in my backyard, what's in this woods right over here that I can go find that it has a purpose that was put here for us to use.
Yeah. Like listen, I was listening to Gregory Alan Iskov around that same time, and he had a song called Dandelion Wine. And I remember asking you, I was like, is dandelion wine really a real thing?
And it is. Every part of that plant's edible.
And extremely high in vitamin C.
Yeah, it's actually different parts of that plant actually have a lot of different nutrients.
Yeah, I imagine so. But it's really interesting, a lot of the things that we spend good money to kill in our yard. So
that's actually very beneficial.
Yeah, it's a lot more valuable than that grass. Even kudzu.
Yeah, every part of kudzu is edible. It's everywhere in the South.
Everywhere. It's like it's kind of, once you start looking at things through these different lenses, it's like, man, we've got it backwards. Like we have a lot of food at our disposal, and we will go hungry to spend money on poison to kill it.
Yeah.
And listen, I know kudzu is very evasive. Like it's horrendous.
But if we started using it,
if we started eating
it might not have so much power to take over.
They say that it's about 3 times more nutritious than spinach, and spinach is about twice as nutritious as lettuce. So we're talking about like something that could easily replace lettuce. I don't know how tasty it is. I've never tried it. Like I could sit here and talk all day, but
we've actually got something that started in our backyard now, so we may try that.
Oh, that's not good.
We're gonna try that with this spring.
If you're gonna try kudzu, try it out of your own backyards. That way, it hasn't been sprayed down with a bunch of pesticides and
we have not
like
sprayed ours. So
no, we don't really do that type of thing.
But so the reason I asked you that question about whether you had tried any other mushroom besides the portobello prior to me getting into it is I hadn't either that I can think of. I figure most people are like that.
Yeah. That's the mushroom that goes on the pizza. That's the mushroom that goes on the salad bars. The mushroom that
on the burgers.
Yeah, you say the portobello mushroom burgers and stuff like that. Yeah.
Mushroom and Swiss. It's going to be portobellos. So like the majority, I think, of people, unless you are very apt to trying new culinary foods and I guess more upscale restaurants, because there are restaurants that serve truffles that are extremely expensive and extremely hard to find. They're supposed to be delicious. I couldn't tell you because I haven't spent that kind of money. But like, unless you're one of those people that like just seeks out a higher end culinary experience, I figure most haven't tried very many.
Right. And truffles, man, they say that ounce for ounce, or is it?
It's more than gold.
Is it 1600? I couldn't remember exactly how much it costs. Man.
It costs more than vanilla too, and we know how much that cost.
Vanilla's pretty expensive, man. Like vanilla absolute anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we know about some of this stuff because we used to
Dabble in perfumery.
yeah, we like to make our own perfumery and stuff every once in a while. But yeah, no, truffles, they say that like they have this natural chocolate taste. So like it's not like
Not like a
an overbearing
kind of
chocolate
more
taste.
like a dark chocolate. I
Like a
think.
dark chocolate, like a semi-sweet. Like and they grow under the ground and people
Yeah.
actually train
Train it.
pigs and stuff like that.
Yeah, train different types of animals to sniff them out.
And that's crazy, y'all. I mean, like, cause, and they can only salvage what the animals won't eat themselves because, like, the pigs
If they
do
find
love
them, they're gonna eat them.
It's very interesting though. Like, and I don't know exactly where all they grow, but
It's only under specific trees that I cannot remember off the top of my head because I don't go looking for those. Because I don't think they grow all that all that often in this general area
this
where we
area.
are. That's just like chaga is mostly a northwestern thing.
I saw they were like cultivating some chaga in the French Alps and stuff like that too. Like,
Yeah.
so I would assume they prefer,
Probably the colder climate.
a lot of these mushrooms do prefer a specific type of climate.
But as far as that, so that's really the basis of why I wanted to do a series on these mushrooms is just kind of encourage people to look outside the box.
Open your mind.
Yeah.
And just at least ponder the possibilities of trying something new, if you haven't already. Whether that be a supplement or culinary, but culinary is a good place to start because if you can go into a grocery store and you can buy it, like the Grubs grocery store that we shop at every once in a while is in Jackson, Tennessee, but so that won't mean a lot to a lot
Most
of you.
people.
But probably like stores like
Whole Foods, maybe.
Whole Foods, something like that, you might be able to go in there and like even Grubs has got like shiitake and
Yeah, they've got
reishi and
a couple of different ones.
and and maitake and lion's mane and all these different culinary, or all these different mushrooms that can be utilized in the kitchen. And that's a really good place to start because you just need to get them warm. You can either saute them or you can look up an alternative a recipe, or you can take those mushrooms if you're pretty scientific and feeling laboratorial.
Yeah.
And you can extract all the good stuff out of them. Like if we had lion's mane here, we could extract the stuff that's in there with water, and then we could turn around and use those same mushrooms and extract the things that are alcohol soluble.
And then combine those for a double
Yeah,
extraction extract.
That's right. So like there's all kinds of different things you can do with them. Start off where you're comfortable.
Yeah. And just to put it out there are a few other things that mushrooms are being used for now.
Well, bring it on.
It's making mushroom leather.
Mushroom leather.
There's two types of mushroom that you can actually use the fruiting body. The rest of the leather is produced by commercial, or the majority of the rest of the mushroom leather products are being produced by commercial oyster production mycelium.
And this is like Paul Stamets' hat that he can actually.
That's an actual mushroom. That not the mycelium. His was one of the two actual mushrooms.
Okay.
And it's just the soft underside that they like press out and then use some type of nitra on it to seal the leather.
Okay. And like he said, he could like tear his hat and use it for tinder, and it would just burn forever.
There's actually a few different ones that can be used as tinder. So like out stuck, need a fire. Happen to see some of these, you could actually use it. But chaga, artist conch, horseshoe mushroom, there's a few different ones. And the artist conch, another cool thing about that is you can actually draw pictures onto it, like scrape pictures out there. If you look up mushroom art,
I've seen
they'll
that.
be on huge artist conchs, and there's some really neat art out there on them. And then you've got the cosmetic industry starting to use mushrooms now for skincare, because they're antioxidant rich. So they infuse serums and creams with different parts of the mushroom, and then they're also really good at moisturizing and great for sensitive skin people.
That's what I'm talking about.
So that was another new thing I learned. I did not realize there's a whole product line of mushroom skincare now.
Right. And we've invited one of our friends on. We don't know exactly if she'll come on or not, but she's pretty
Well versed in some natural.
Yeah, in the mushroom world. She's very busy too, though. Like, so we'll see if she wants to come on. But if she wants to come on and talk to us about it, we'll have her on. But with saying that, if you have time and you know what you're talking about and you want to come on and teach us some stuff or talk about some
just
stuff,
want to ask some questions, or
feel free.
Yeah.
Drop us an email at opexchangepod. That's opexchangepod @gmail.com. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show and you wanna come in and talk mushrooms or anything else like that, we've got a lot of things that we still need to interview folks over. We want to talk about. We want to continue that series on serving tables and the history of the tipping system, especially in this country, in the United States of America. But we'll talk about whatever. But then you got what was it? The human trafficking. Yeah, human trafficking. So if you have any experience
or input on that,
yeah, if you have any input, knowledge that can further our educations about human trafficking, we'd love to have you on. So again, drop us an email if you're interested in coming on and talking. We can do it all by telephone. It doesn't have to be in face. It doesn't have to be on video. We're still working on the video thing.
It's driving me crazy.
It works. Well, we'll get everything set up and everything will be working. We'll get back here and something stops. Something stops.
And it's only with the video. I don't know what the deal is.
We don't know what the deal is. And so we're still working on that. We haven't given up on it completely, but we're going to be audio until we get those bugs figured out. And I'm assuming it's got to be something simple, like the computer keeps on like removing permissions to use a camera or something like that.
I don't know.
It's got to be something, but we've yet to be able to nail that down. So like, hey man, you're already an established podcaster and you know what you're doing there. You want to come on and
give
teach
us some tips.
Stuff? We'd love to go video, but I guess for now we will continue this.
Yeah, we'll have series. Next Monday will be the turkey tail. That's the one we're going to start
off with turkey tail. That's a good one to start off with. Okay, so next Monday we'll start off with turkey tail, and after that we'll choose another mushroom and we'll just take a deeper dive into each individual mushroom. Maybe find some testimonials about these mushrooms and
gives them the benefits. Go over some of the side effects that may come with some of them.
That's right. But for now, I guess that's the end. That'd probably wrap this one up.
Yeah.
All right. You guys have a good one, and we'll
talk to you later.
That's it.